Greetings, my people. Greetings, my people. Hold on, let me get my mic straight. Put that up. Greetings, my people. Greetings, my people. Um, okay. Today is Wednesday, February 14th, 2024 at 8:48 a.m. And I titled this one Listening to Understand/Understand and Not to Respond. And the reason I'm doing this because, I'm gonna say this. I was talking to a good friend of mine, a long-term friend of mine, the other day, and I was saying, you know what, bro? We got to get back to the basics, right? And what I mean by basics is we have to learn the fundamental things all over again. I mean, I understand deep levels to everything. Everything has its place for me. Nothing is useless. I feel like everything has some use, right? Put that up. Everything has some use, right? But it's like at its time. When you start a child out, you don't start a child out um, riding a big bike. They start out on training wheels, right? Because they're developing the fundamentals of how to ride a bike or how to do an exercise. Like I'm teaching my little baby to read right now. So we have tons of stuff that we read. But what I do is go over her with word by word, word by word, word by word. And I'm putting the fundamentals in her. I'm putting the basics in her. So this is why I say we have to get back to the basics. And what are some of those basics? How do we love each other? How we communicate with each other? How we show compassion to each other? How the world treats you has no dealings on how I treat you. This is what we have to understand, right? Because we can look at things in a time of how society is and think that there's no hope, there's no nothing. I choose to look at it different. Let me tell you something. I have a very high understanding of things, even when I don't display it and intellectually masturbate. Right? Um, I have a high level of understanding, and I have a high level of compassion for things sometimes. Um, and, and I'm gonna say this because I speak to the loss of my mom a lot, right? And I speak to the loss of my mom, my brother, and my pops, but none hit me harder than my mother. Doesn't mean my brother or pops was any less. It's just your mother, and my mom was my best friend. So there were things that kind of destroyed how I looked at things. But as I always talk about and champion for brothers, and I champion for black people, right? I champion for sisters and children if they needed to get in therapy. But I specifically feel like we should be dealing with brothers because it takes men to raise boys, correct? That doesn't women do excellent jobs. But when we're missing the component of a man there, when you're a young man and you're missing your feminine aspect of your mother, you're incomplete, right? So in no way am I disregarding women. I grew up with a mother that raised two sons. She did an excellent job. So I know that a woman can raise a man. But to teach a young man how to be a man, to relate to him on masculinity, to relate to him on things, it takes a man. Is that fair to say? All right. And so to set the table of what I'm saying, like the basics of how we communicate with each other, right? And and I get a lot of my ideas just sometimes I'm brainstorming, sometimes I might be watching a show, but I feel like in today's times there's a lot of bickering and debating, right? But are we actually being heard, or are we just screaming? And that brings me to what I'm saying, like listening to understand. And I say understand. I hear people say overstand. Cool. But I say understand. Why? Because the word is inner. When I understood something, I internalized it. It hit me inward. It was like I don't want to say swallowed because I think TD Jakes used that up. You ever been swallowed up? But nonetheless, I internalized it and it hit me inward. But a lot of times, why we can't get clear on communication is because we're listening to respond or to debate or give your rebuttal or a better answer. See, in the fundamentals, and I'm working on something, but in the fundamentals, it's like one of the biggest tools is, and this is something, ask yourself, can you listen without interrupting? Especially when it's a touchy subject, when it's a heated conversation, when it's something that you just not agreeing with or the person is not agreeing with you. Can you listen without interrupting? Or do you have to say something? See, these are little components of discipline. Because if we're not disciplined males or men, how can we lead? If we're not disciplined, if you're not disciplined enough to listen without interrupting, now that doesn't negate your passion because I think we all do it. So if a person says, "Hey, bro, I'm talking. Can you not cut me off?" What do you do after that? Because we all have human emotion. So I know I'm a fiery person. I'm an earth sign, but I'm a fiery person. So so am I developing? Because like I said, listen, I'm transparent as possible. I'm still developing. You know, a lot of times people act like they're these experts and like I don't always have it covered. What I have is in my high level of understanding, I have a high level of self-awareness. When somebody tells me something, I internalize it. Now, even if I don't agree with it, even if I wrestle with it in my ego, in my emotions, in my pride, because I still have all of those things. I still got ego. I still got pride. I still have honor. But you have to check those things, right? Because that clouds your judgment of how you're doing things, right? Am I making sense? So if you're always listening to respond, I hear you, but when you negate everything. I hear you, but. And then if I know that this is a conversation with a person that's dead, I don't even have the conversation past a certain point. I try, but sometimes you have to realize, like I said, in my discernment, whose discernment? In my discernment. When I know it's just a person that, this is not gonna get anywhere. I don't force that square peg in that round hole or that round peg in that square hole. That might fit. But it's not supposed to fit. But no, you get what I'm saying. No, you get what I'm saying on the real. And that's the thing, like I'm understanding that to enjoy things. Listen, I could do some things on this computer as far as like lecturing that would wow people. But if I can't relate to you in a most simplistic form, in my opinion, what good? Because this is how we build people up. We build people up and we revere them and they become these mega people in your lives. But do they really relate to you? Can you really relate to the brother or sister that lost a parent? Or are you telling them, well, that's just how it is, man. Death is a part of life, the circle of life, and you go to singing that? Or can you really give that person what they need in that moment? Sisters, can you put your arm around the young girl that reminds you of yourself? Or do you talk about the youth? Do you talk about the conditions of the youth, or do you try to help the conditions of the youth? This is what I'm talking about, the basics. And most of us, this is why, and I gotta talk to my brother, I gotta talk to the men, the males, the niggas, that this is why we're doing piss poor jobs. It's because of our bravado. Most dudes don't even want to learn from another dude. Most dudes don't even want to learn from other people, especially if you call yourself conscious. You gotta stop that. But you'll go into a Westerner's program and you'll sit there at that program and you'll adhere to every guideline. If you got to go to them classes, you sit in that class. You know why? Because there's that earthly God I talk about. There's that incentive that you know you're going to get. There's that incentive that you know you're going to get. So that's what I'm saying. I want us to understand of how are we developing? How are we developing as men? How have we developed? Is that a better question to ask? Because growth is continual. You only stop growing when you stop growing. You only stop learning when you stop learning, or when you transition. And then you still can learn in the afterlife. Hmm. Knowledge is continual. Like I said, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I don't want to dictate the assignment and tell everybody else what to do. That's tiring. It's like you always the person that drives. Don't you get tired? Don't you be like, man, I wish somebody else could drive. Learning to share. Learning to share spotlights without feeling jealous. I'm a genuinely happy person when my brothers and sisters have an achievement. I'm genuinely happy to see my friends have accomplishments. The basics. In listening to respond, I'm gonna give you an example. If somebody tells you you did something to them, oh, I got an even better one because this goes on. This goes on daily. This goes on daily. When a female speaks on the conditions of males and how a male has been made them feel, what's the first thing a male does? Well, women do it too. You didn't just hear what was said. There's a time and a place to make that comparison. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is balance. There's a time to make that comparison. But hear that person's statement. Hear what that person has just told you. If that person said, hey, you made me feel XYZ, don't come back and say, well, you made me feel ABC, because that's tit for tat. Have the listen to what that person say, right? After y'all have dealt with that, say, well, can I say something? Sure. Um, not to not to rebuttal or give you a like tit for tat, but I probably didn't state this, but you made me feel XYZ. And now you're having a dialogue on how you make each other feel. This is what we're gonna need to make each other to make each other better. We can't give up on everybody because where does that leave the next generation? Am I making sense? Where does that leave our children? Who do our children associate with? We have to fix our problems. We can't fix every problem, but the ones that we can, gotta fix them. It's tough, challenging, but we still gotta do it, y'all. Actually hear what a person is saying. Everybody threw the word narcissist around. I think what it was last year or the year before. Narcissist, narcissist, narcissist. Everything was narcissistic personality. It could have been. But that is one of the traits. Deflection, gaslighting. And it's so commonplace that people been doing it for the longest. That's why people can't get, when when Monique's son was saying what he was saying, and they made a rebuttal. Listening to respond. They didn't really hear what that young man was saying. In my opinion. Whose opinion? My opinion. They still didn't hear what that man was saying. And I lose more and more respect. Because you have a young man that's telling you they're hurting. And you come back talking about blah, blah, blah. What that got to do with the young man saying what he felt growing up? Like I said in my unlearning trauma video, I'm sitting in a therapy session dealing with things that happened to me in the third grade. This is how deep trauma go. But we intellectualize it. We say, "Oh, I'm okay. I just you might be okay, but I'm not." And then deep down, if you really ask yourself, "Are you really okay, or have you told yourself?" So that's what I want to say. I'm not gonna go long because I kind of want to keep the videos like this, keep my messages like this. But if I'm hitting you, hit the follow, share them. I'm learning to share my voice because I used to keep it in, as strong as it is, as outspoken as I am. This was kind of like my sacred place where I would just dialogue. I would just date and do everything, kind of like a vlog diary. But if these messages help you, share it. It's okay. So I leave you with peace, and let's love on each other better, y'all.